Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of budget deliberations. Call us back from our recess. We have an adjusted agenda in front of us, Council. We did work extremely hard yesterday with administration. We're able to move some things around. With that, I will turn over to Mr. Coleman or Ms. Klamosko. I'm not sure who's going to work us through our review. And then the next part is tab 13, which is sponsorships and grants. So
Madam Chair, Ms. Klamosko will.
Ms. Klamosko, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So another item that we did circulate to council that was on in your spot this morning was the recommendations. So motions that can be utilized later today when we get to the section of approving the budget later today. So that was for your review. So yesterday, we had some questions that were asked, so we have some answers prepared to answer the questions that came up in day 1 deliberations. One item that I would like to review before we move to answering some of those questions was one piece of information in the fees and charges bylaw that we neglected to go over with you yesterday in terms of the fees and charges for economic development. So it's on page 17 of your fees and charges bylaw under tab 9. And so what these fees are, they're all in red because it is a change from last year. It is just establishing rates for when our spaces at the Business and Entrepreneur Center are rented out, what the space rental charge would be. So those are new fees for 2024.
Okay. Just a couple of, I guess, comments or questions. 2 things. I really like the idea of the shared, the access space. And that when you say dedicated desk, I'm assuming that's not an office. And so it allows for some more collaboration and things to happen. Really what we wanted to see happen, but give somebody a place to have a landing spot, correct? That's a great idea. All right. Any questions on those fees and charges? I'm seeing none. Okay, thank you.
So the next, one of the questions we received yesterday was around country residential subdivision drainage plan. Mr. Meerglod will provide some additional information when he comes later this morning to do the presentation of his departments. The next discussion item that I'd like to answer from yesterday is for tab 13, and it was the memberships. So there was a few items that were flagged for further information. So I will answer a couple of the questions, and then I will ask Mr. Honesty to come up to answer a couple of the other questions. So one of the comments that was made on tab 13, so that is behind the 4th, no, 5th.
Go to 14 and come back.
Yes. It's right at the last blue page in that tab. There is a comment around the Association of Pigeon Lake Municipalities, how because the meetings are held here, we weren't expected to be paying a membership fee of the $120. That has not been the case. We have been sent an invoice for $120, and we did a review, and we've been paying that fee since 2010. So we have not paid the membership. So
Floor is yours, Councilor.
Okay, I'm gonna add to that then. As of our last meeting, every person that was in attendance there was told they were going to be sent a notice of $200 yearly membership, and it was stated last year, the same time, that Leduc County would be excluded from that because we supply the building. And that was a $200 membership. That's why I was questioning where the $120 ever came from to start with. But with that, I would be checking into that because even though it's not a large amount of money, we should be exempt from paying anything.
Okay. So what I would suggest is that in lieu of changing the total budget dollar for memberships, as this is a small value item, I would say we just would zero out this line and put the $120 in the miscellaneous 1,300, just so that the budget remains the same, but we will acknowledge that we shouldn't be paying a membership fee And then we
think it
can look
is,
into
we
that.
would write a letter on behalf of council, just clarifying that our membership is paid out in kind by use of space at the county center. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the next item that I will cover is the Urban Development Institute. There was a question as to why that fee was increasing in 2024. We did again go back into our financial records. In fact, the fee increased back in 2022. So this is not a new increase that's being put in by the Urban Development Institute. This was something that was done a few years ago. However, our budget did not reflect that change.
Thank you.
And then the next question was around two memberships, Battle River Watershed Alliance and the North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance. So Mr. Honesty is here to answer some questions and clarify those memberships.
Yeah, good morning. Just to clarify some of the questions related to our representation, a member of council sits on the Headwaters Alliance, which represents our area of the North Saskatchewan watershed. And we're through our membership, we are a member, but then that's an elected board. So we would have eligibility to go to the AGM and I believe there's 4 municipal positions available through the board, but it would be elected at their AGM. So through our membership, we don't automatically have an appointment on the board. We would be elected in if we so choose to. And then we have both a council representative, and then we also have administration that attends different committees for the North Saskatchewan watershed, primarily based on the Headwaters Alliance working group.
Okay, question?
You said a member of council sits on the Headwater.
Correct.
One of us is appointed there, I guess. If so, who? Because we all don't know.
We might have made, perhaps yes, I know
Yeah, we
Councillor
do.
Vandenberg had sat on it. I had sat on it in the past. Yeah, no worries. We can look into that. We don't have to solve that now.
I think it's me.
Okay,
I've never been though. I just don't know much about it at all.
just a couple of things on that before we move to the Battle River watershed. At the Headwaters level, and I sat on that for 2 or 3 years, they do great work. It is an absolutely well-driven organization. I think Ms. Shen came in to talk to us about what they're doing, had done a whole bunch of work on riparian, looking at the riparian around Strawberry and a whole bunch of other places. I think it's worth sitting on it. It would be interesting to try and get a seat at the Watershed Alliance, which is at that higher level and a little bit more political. I'm not sure if they get as much work done as they do at the Headwaters, because I've never sat there. But from my perspective, the Headwaters Alliance is really worthwhile. And Ms. Gavin, did we find out? Counselor, you are correct. There you go. On to Battle River Watershed Alliance.
Yeah, same structure. And again, those are suggested membership contributions. The North Saskatchewan is based on a population suggestion, and the Battle River would be the same scenario. We only have a piece of the Battle River watershed, so that's why we only play a small portion based on a smaller population. Both watersheds follow the same practice, right? Through assessment, different projects, workshops that they host in the community. So both would follow the same. And actually both are very good about posting a lot. They have very strong websites. So a lot of information, annual reports, financial statements, all that's very clearly provided through those associations.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions on those two? I'm seeing none. Ms. Klamosko?
So we have no further questions that came out of our meeting yesterday. So we would move right to the next agenda item.
Which is Mr. Honesty as well.
Yes, so this is also within tab 13. It's actually right behind the membership. So we would look to the grant sponsorship budget. Thank you.
Okay.
Just a reminder, obviously this is following 2 policies that council has. We also have a committee which represents 2 members of council and 2 administrators who both review the annual submissions as well as the quarterly requests that come forward to council for final decision. And that's part of that $15,000 miscellaneous grants that are reviewed quarterly. So there are both requests that have been submitted as well as administrative proposed adjustments. Obviously trying to meet some of the budget expectations of council. So there have been some reductions or some eliminations that have been suggested by administration for discussion today. We had preliminary conversations with our committee in August and had reviewed, and we also have every submission available here today if there's any questions related to any details with any of these submissions.
Thank you. So I think what we'll do, council, is we'll just run through each and every one of them. We'll make sure we understand what the organization is, what it brings to our residents or businesses here. We'll look at the requested amount, the proposed amount, and we'll go through it like that. So the first one is Beaver Hills Biosphere. We provided $10,000 last year. They've asked for $10,000 this year, and that's being recommended. Any questions on the biosphere? I'm seeing none. Canadian Energy Museum requested, gave 25,000 last year, requested 25,000 this year, and we're proposing zero. Mr. Honesty, can you shed some light on administration's proposal there?
Just based on trying to meet some budget expectations. Obviously, we work closely with the Canadian Interim Museum. They were just previously in to give an update to council. Obviously, there are financial constraints and limitations that they're facing. Our portion would help be sustainable, but isn't. There's many items that need to be addressed and support. We support where we can, but it's based on budget limitations.
Okay, I would like us to give something to the Energy Museum, even if it is just transitional money so they can wind down or figure out what they're doing. I mean, and I know we've said this 3 years ago and probably 5 years ago. The notion of a standalone museum is kind of not in vogue anymore. But when I talk to people in the community about should we continue to support, should we continue to put money in that, the answer is yes. And then I ask the question, well, have you been there? And the answer is no. So perhaps we have a romantic view that we want to support this. But it is about, in some ways, about the history of our area and of our county. So I don't know. I was wondering maybe we could provide something. Any other thoughts, or Councillor Lewis?
Thank you. Well, I understand that there is great history within the museum and the icon it is for the county. $25,000 or less or whatever we decide is not going to make or break them. It's not going to push them past the point of being able to survive for another year, but it's also not going to hinder, in my opinion, what their performance is. Their presentation was amazing. I felt great confidence in their new director and what direction she's looking to go. And she seemed to understand the realities of how and what the operations need and don't need anymore. But we've been here in the county almost 9 years, and I don't think my kids have ever gone through their school to the museum. And if people want to see history, they look it up online now, and it's all there. So I would be supportive of the $0 budget this year.
Councillor Balazer and then Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with both presenters here recently. Now, I'm more agreeing with Mayor DeBlanco on this. I'm born and raised a resident of Leduc County, and this place and that facility has been part of my life right from the very beginning. I have residents who talk about oil and energy in Alberta and Leduc region in particular. The 25,000 to me is a little excessive, but I feel we should be donating something just as for my residents to see that at least we are part of this community and the oil industry in Alberta.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Again, talked about it, had a chance to just check in with other counselors. I look at the $25,000 and cutting it off was an option for me as well. I could be supportive of that, but then after some reflection on it, it is history. I know it's past the 70 years we were looking with our heritage project yesterday, but again, it is really important in Alberta. They celebrate it. It's there. They just moved the rig out. There is some money generated. Allegedly, there's a new person that's going to take a swing at it. There's been lots that have tried. I'm pretty good with leaving the 25,000 in if that's what we want to do to give them another year to go. We'll be back here with the same requests a year from now. And at that point, maybe we can remember what we said today when we set the funding. So I'm good with a reduction. I'm good with the 25. I'm okay with the 0, whatever council sees fit.
Counselor Scobie?
I think it is important to help them, and with some new administration again, they're gonna sell some assets to get themselves online. So I would be in support of maybe doing half of that, 12.5. And then we'll see what next year's like. If they're not winning, well, we could back off further.
Counselor Lewis?
Question to Dean, is this, we've paid $25,000 the past 3 years in these efforts that they've asked for to kind of like our transition out to try to see if they could get their feet underneath them. They have not done that, which is why we're going for a $0. Is that?
I wouldn't say that. I think we had conversations for the 3 years about what our role would be in their sustainability. And I guess that's the same question, right? What role does Leduc County play in the sustainability of society? Is that 25,000? Does that become 50,000? What is that number? And I think that's the one we've struggled to determine is we want to contribute, but what's our role in that long-term sustainability that isn't coming from the province or other sources of revenue? You know, they rely on municipalities more than they may have in the past.
Okay, Counselor Wanchuk and then Counselor Smith.
Yeah, I think it's part of, it's history and it's going to be gone if we don't do something with it. I don't know what the dollar value would be to do, but I think we got to kick in some money. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Smith?
It is funny. I haven't visited in a while and we are throwing money at it, but we're not doing a whole lot. Of maybe something we could do is have a Leduc County recreational event out there, an oil and gas celebration. We are not shy that we are oil and gas here in Leduc. It is on our logo. So maybe it's something that we do support. It's maybe something that we have Dean host an event. I think it would be a really huge event if it was advertised again. And you know what? That's another way of giving them $5,000-$10,000 by hosting an event. And again, we'd have to pay a little bit for an oil drop suit for Dean to wear that day as a mascot. But I think it would be something to even council to have a meeting over there and celebrate it. I think it would be something to find some extra dollars to put in their coffers through an event that we host. And just one final question. I know Devon used to support and the city of Leduc supported. Where is their support this year?
Devon's previous contribution was some in-kind assistance, not a financial contribution. So they would snow clearing or grass cutting, they would chip in and support where they could. Leduc is also, they committed to a 3-year commitment, and this year they're in their budget deliberations. And I believe, I'm not sure if they've changed that, but I believe recently it was a 0 recommendation. So, but I don't believe their budget is set though.
So appreciate the discussion. And I really appreciated, because I was going to bring it up and then I forgot, but Mr. Honesty, when you talked about other sources of revenue, when I look at the list that we have here, some of the organizations have access to a broader base of revenue. And the Beaver Hills Biosphere, for example, right? I mean, they are part of Sherwood Park. They get money, I believe, from Lamont County. They have a greater draw area. Canadian Energy Museum was really relying on 3 municipalities for the most part. And again, they are working at it. I mean, I like Councillor Scobie's idea of half. I mean, I'm fine with $10,000, but if we even went to half, 12.5, and then we actually follow through with Councillor Smith's idea, which is maybe we do an event there and we actually get people to the grounds. Maybe that would make a difference. I don't know. So I'm just going to do right round 12-5, looking for nods. This is
No.
not a vote.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a no. Okay, so it looks like mostly yes. Family violence prevention team. That's asked 2023. We provided 5,500. They requested 5,500. Administration recommendation 5,500. Looking for just nods or questions. Counselor.
Again, all of the community-based funding that we have on these grants, I'm going to come back. I have family violence, the Health Foundation, Rise Up House, St. Vincent de Paul, Stars, and Hub. I'm going to come back with a proposed increase to all of them. So I'll leave them at now. Or if you want, you can grab a coffee and I can do my 4-minute spiel on increasing all of them. I guess I'll do that while I do have the floor. I'd like to see, again, we do talk about tough times and we talk about families that are struggling and we talk about social issues that are affecting the homes. I was looking at this whole sponsorship. Last year, we had $204,000 budgeted. This year, we have a request of 21 and our proposed is 151,000, which is a substantial decrease in sponsorships, not including what we just gave back to the others. So what I would propose us doing, these are just top ups for all of them. And this probably works out to about $1.50 a resident. Can Rick Smith afford $1.50 to help with these support networks? And can the other two people in my home put in $1.50 for the tune of $4.50 to enhance? So what I would propose is the family violence prevention team is asked for 55. I'd like to see that go up to 75 in tough times with families that are struggling. The Health Foundation, which is extremely important, and they fundraise, I think their CT machine was one of the big ones where people are no longer getting ambulance. They asked for a very modest $1,750. I'd like to see them go up to $2,750. Rise Up Home, again, lots of family violence and needing for counseling and people unable to get out of bad situations have asked for $8,000. They've shown over the years that they are very helpful. They've been there for a long time. I'd like to see that go from $8,000 to $10,000. St. Vincent de Paul provides very basic items to families that have been set up, a microwave, a couch, it's all used. They've asked for a modest $2,000. I'd like to see that go to $3,000. Another one I think that we need to celebrate is Stars, who've asked for 15, who has escalated over the period of time, but they're in our backyard. It's our airport. It's the same as when we did the air assistance to go in. We stepped up. I'd like to see us step up to the 22 that they've asked for them 15. And finally, the Hub. Homeless, I guess, whatever unhouselessness is not great. And you see a lot of people that are suffering and in Leduc and out there at 6 o'clock in the morning and out there at 9 o'clock at night. And they've asked for 7,500. It's gone from an agency that worked with Dean over the years and provided a bus ticket or provided a meal or provided a utility bill to something that people have a place to get out of the community, not cause problems, and maybe have a base that they're doing. They've asked for 75. I'd like to see that to go to 10. So I'm just going to do a quick summary on it. Is the items I've talked about, family violence, the Health Foundation, Rise Up, St. Vincent de Paul, Stars, and Hub. We've proposed $39,750 to them in this granting. I would like to see us jump up to the numbers that I gave, which takes us to $55,750, which is an increase of $15,500 for community-based programs that are at the very bottom end of assisting people that are down on their luck, that are helping families facing family violence, addictions, lack of money, which would then bring our proposed, we had 151, it would bring that up to still about 165, which is still a big decrease of the 204 that we had last year. So as we move through the amounts, I just wanted to, again, long-windedness, go through and just appeal to my fellow councillors to put a little bit more money, $15,000 into the community, which is about $1 and change for every resident, not counting our business tax base. So I hope you'll hear me out on that. So as we are right on the family violence team, we're proposing 55. I'd like to see that go up to $7,500 on that line, and I'll add the others as we go. Thank you.
No wonder you wanted us to move this to the morning when everybody was fresh. Gave you time to do all your math last night. Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate your passion around this. So Family Violence Prevention Team asked for $5,500. Counselor Smith is suggesting we add another 2,000. I'm just going to go around. Thoughts on that? I'm starting with you, Counselor Scobie. Yes, no? Okay.
Is there a way that we could see what the difference would be on a total chart as opposed to just saying yes or no and then trying to figure out the total at the bottom? Like, is that like on a spreadsheet? Is that possible? I don't know if you guys are able to make the changes on the fly.
Yep.
Through the
What,
chair.
why don't we go through, we'll discuss the rest, we'll move on to another item. Administration will put together a spreadsheet that will show us the difference, and then we can come back, okay? So 2,000, if it's yes or no, or you're gonna wait until you see the spreadsheet?
I prefer to wait.
Yeah,
Well, everyone that Rick mentioned, I was in total agreement with, and I don't think it's gonna change our number at the end of the budget that much, and if it did a little bit, well,
okay.
that's where I'm looking at it.
Okay, I generally think organizations ask for two things, what they need and what they think we will provide them. So I'll just go through. Food bank was $10,000. We've given 10, looking for nods or no's, nods. Okay. Victim services, was this one of the ones you increased? Yep.
I have a question on victim services. Victim services delivery has changed in the province to being a provincial. Leduc had a really good Leduc and district one. Can you tell me, are we seeing changes, and is this money that's just going into a big provincial pot of money?
Thank you. The province had proposed some structural changes. Those are still haven't been implemented. So the conversations we're having with our local victim services is that we would continue to fund, based on the recent information, that they would still operate as per traditional throughout 2024. So that may change in 2025. Following the provincial announcement, there have been some delays in the implementation of that new structure. So.
Okay. As is. Okay, so 8,750, looking for nods, starting this way, seeing nods. Pro Rodeo, we provided 3,500. They asked for 3,500. We're suggesting 3,500. Nods, correct. Leduc County Health Foundation asked for, we gave 1,750. They asked again for 1,750. Counselor Smith is suggesting adding another $1,000 to that. I actually am not so sure I'd support that because they have other funding sources. They do a big fundraiser. They have other funding sources that aren't municipalities, but we'll take a look at the chart at the end as suggested by Counselor Lewis. I think we need to keep that in mind. Some of these organizations do not have that opportunity to do large fundraising or other opportunities like that. The chamber last year was 55,092. This year they requested $49,846. We are suggesting $32,365. Was there something specific we removed from that, Mr. Honesty, that we believed was?
One of their new initiatives that they had asked for support was the promotion and marketing of our community halls.
Okay.
And that was a 17,481 ask.
Okay.
In addition to the tourism, which was previously 30,000, they'd requested to be 50,000.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Klosko?
So we have prepared a spreadsheet that we have up on the screen
Just
to
have
show
make it
the
a little bigger.
differences between the 2023
Yep.
budget and the 2024 request.
Thank you. Look at how fast you could do that. All right.
So there was, sorry, I just want to be able to see enough of it that, okay. So
the
where,
change- sorry, so the change for administration is reducing that 17,481 for community halls. Is that correct?
yeah, so there's a couple big changes. So they've asked for I'll just go through as it's presented here. They've asked for an increase of $20,000 for the tourism initiative. So based on the PowerPoint presentation that was given within the council presentation, administration would like to have a little bit more information as to why it's increasing $20,000. More members have come on board into that initiative. So just wondering why there's that substantial increase. So that is why we've kept it at the 2023 request level and not requested the 50,000. Also, the new initiative of going to do county halls, events and programming, same idea that I think we would like to have some further discussions because some clarity as to what halls are you speaking about specifically? Is it agricultural societies, halls? What all is this? Do they want this service? Do they want, this could be something that they could approach the halls directly and that could be a service they provide to them. Also, for us as municipality, we want to look at maybe what's possible within what we can provide for some of the services to county halls, because this is what I would consider a new initiative. So when we look at how we do our budgets and when we're looking at increasing a level of service, which this is what this would be to our county halls, then we need to understand what that service is in more detail than what was provided within the PowerPoint presentation. So those are the significant decreases or that we have not given what was asked, just because given that the Regional Visitor Information Center is no longer, we actually should have seen a reduction in the Leduc Chamber cost this year and not an increase. So overall, it's a request of 5,542 came across, but there was a substantial service that was being eliminated. So here I've just outlined those first two, the reasons why administration has removed those dollars. And then just showing the difference. So there was a reduction in business engagement, an increase of over $3,000 for the ag initiatives, the FCSS luncheon that we've started doing. So this just outlines all of the different changes to the costs.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Lewis, you had your hand up a while ago. Okay. I really appreciate the spreadsheet and the thought that's gone into it. I agree. If we've removed a visitor center, that should have been taken off and then whatever else added on. I appreciate your comments about community halls because it can either be done directly. I wouldn't mind if the chamber reached out to my community hall, but I also don't want the chamber programming my community hall because we do have a group of people that are actually dedicated to do that. So with that, I actually support the number proposed here, 32,365, knowing that should something come up that we do want to expand in, we might have some money left in miscellaneous. Councillor Lewis.
I might be able to clarify a little bit on a portion of what the chamber was looking to do with the community halls. I had a conversation with Jen. They were going to reach out to the community halls to see if they wanted to help them update their bylaws and their policies, which I know Dean's department kind of does that already. So I don't know if that would be a duplication of what we already do, but that might be a little bit of what they're doing.
I think that's another reason why I think we need to have some discussions with the chamber directly, because that would be an overlap of a service that we do within Leduc County that we want to be careful that you have clarity in roles and responsibilities here, and things in this initiative I think are getting a bit blurred.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That was a really great discussion and allows us to be able to put something in writing and then have a subsequent meeting with, I think, the chamber about why we've made the decisions we have. So do we want to go with the administration's proposal of 32,000? Seeing nod. Yep. Regional Chamber Tourism is asked for 50. We're providing 30. Does that fit into your chart somewhere, Ms. Klamosko? This is above and beyond.
So going back to, for the tourism,
Yeah, so we have
Yeah.
Regional Chamber of Commerce is one line and it says 32,365. And just beneath it, it's Leduc Region Chamber of Commerce Tourism, and it's another $30,000.
So this was that first line that I
Okay.
had on the spreadsheet where they had asked for 50,000 and we're saying we'd like to understand why the cost is going up $20,000.
Because there's more members, so the cost should be spread.
Yeah,
out.
so there is, there's opportunities for us to get more information. And if we believe that there should be adjustments made at final budget, or we also have some miscellaneous dollars within this budget, there's opportunity, but I think there needs to be further clarification.
So in reality, it's over $62,000
Yes.
that we would be providing in grant to the chamber.
That is
It's a
correct.
significant piece of money. Okay, Leduc Regional Chamber Entrepreneurship Program, we provided 10 last year. They asked for nothing, so we gave them nothing. Have I read that correctly?
Yeah, they're working directly through the economic development on
Arm of
a different structural relationship.
Perfect. Rise Up House asked for 8,000. Last year we gave them 5. We are proposing 2,000, but Councillor Smith, you're asking for that to bump up to 10. So you're asking for another 2,000 there. Do we see Rise Up House financials? Is that part of their
Yes.
presentation?
I see them
Yep.
and then the committee sees them, and then not every year, but maybe every couple of years, we invite them in to present to our council and give an overview, but we get their annual report, the financials and statistics.
So taking a look at that, Councillor Smith is suggesting an extra $2,000. Rise Up House is the shelter in the city of Leduc. Sorry, no, yes?
Dean, I believe Rise Up House is counseling, frontline counseling for people facing family violence and family members. And I do believe they include men in their counseling as well.
I believe when they did come in a couple years ago, they did have a number of county residents, not residents from county towns. I'm okay with the additional $2,000, taking a look around the table. We'll wait, we'll look at the bottom line. Right now, we'll put it in and then we'll look at bottom line. Society of St. Vincent de Paul, and I believe that and we have that sheet in our book. It's a group of volunteers that visits homes to provide emergency assistance such as food, furniture, household items, clothing, transportation, such as bus tickets, financial assistance for partial rent or utilities, referrals to existing community support programs, advocacy, and mentorship. They have requested $2,000. We gave them $2,000 last year.
They service or serve Leduc County residents.
Correct. Yeah, all across the region.
And again, this would be one of those organizations, Mr. Honesty, that would have no ability to do much more fundraising. They're not a big organization like the community, the hospital or something like that. They would rely more on donations or.
Donations and
Yeah.
contributions. And they fill a need for my staff in supporting residents where there isn't a structured program that fits, right? I need a couch, I need a chair that doesn't fit into a social service provision. They fill that need in a very successful way for us.
It's quite a gap. And Councillor Smith, what were you suggesting? Okay. Okay. I think that's sort of that. I appreciate you describing the gap that exists. Appreciate it. Stars, we provided 15. They requested 22. Councillor Smith, you're suggesting we go up to their request?
Yes, if I could passionately ask for that extra dollars. Again, Stars is in our backyard and we've always supported our neighbors. We support our airport. Many of us out east see nothing other than Stars flying over quite frequently over my place. We don't have ambulance service other than Beaumont, Camrose, or Tofield. We don't have a Leduc, a Beaumont, Kalmar, or a Warburg. So it's used a lot statistically when they look there, and they do come in every year. They do celebrate. They're getting a lot of new equipment. They have a broad base of fundraising. I don't agree that it needs to be fundraised at all. It should be paid for specifically by the province as it is an ambulance service. However, because they are in our backyard and because we are regional leaders, I always like to remain on the top of the people that they recognize being those top contributors, those top supporters. So again, I know they're a broad base opportunities to fundraise, but again, they're our neighbors.
Okay, any thoughts on that? Do you want to leave it until we see the, oh, council?
Yeah, I don't know if I would support this one. I know STARS is a great organization. I think they seem to be funded better than what they sometimes, I kind of give up a little bit on supporting when I realize that they're giving out grants for different, organizations and stuff. So I don't know. I think I would stick with the 15 on this one, be my
Okay.
thought.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards you, but I want to see the final number at the end. I believe that's really important. Any other comments?
Yeah, for me, I understand. I understand Ray's point, but I'm looking at Rick's now. I go back many years. My father-in-law would not be alive if it weren't for STARS. They flew him right out of a farm at Stavely to the hospital in Calgary, and I've been a huge supporter of STARS for forever. So I'm agreeing with Rick to fund them what they're asking for.
Put her in. We'll take a look at the chart at the end.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm kind of agreeing with Glenn, having used STARS before. My son was in a terrible accident and flipped the car over and they ended up hauling him in. Now, you pay for the fire trucks, you pay for the ambulance, you pay for everything else, but you never pay for STARS. So I think that's a really good organization, and I agree with Rick.
Okay. Hub Association. Do we have a description of the Hub Association? Leduc Hub provides financial support to low-income families and at-risk individuals. Partnering with Alberta Works Family and Community Support Services, Leduc Community Housing Foundation, RCMP Victim Services, and other support agencies, they attempt to meet the urgent needs of citizens, which may include eviction prevention, fuel, utility payments, food and meal cards, transportation, and medical bills. Anything else on that, Mr. Honesty?
No, just that, obviously the shelter's been a key part of their, the work that they've done in the last few years as well, within the city of Leduc. But, primarily that role that we work with them on is providing that assistance to residents, related to housing.
Okay. Councillor Smith, your suggestion was? From 75 to 10,000. Okay. Thoughts on supporting the hub? Well, I have to say that while we marshaled for the Santa Claus parade, which was extremely exciting for everybody, there were a group of people who you could tell were homeless that had some carts and their belongings. Somebody was in a car keeping warm. And so I think the need is there. We like to think if we don't see it, it doesn't exist. So we'll take a look at that. I don't mind adding it in now. I might chip away at it a bit, but okay. Haymaker Rodeo, 500, 500, 500.
Yep. Leave it there.
Lizard Lake Watershed, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. Very hardworking organization down there. Miscellaneous, some extra money there, which we might be pulling out, so there might be less. Go ahead.
Okay, we're down at miscellaneous and right down at the bottom. Now, the other night I attended Warburg Light Up, and we've been supporting them $500 yearly. Did we this year, or are we going to, or is that included in miscellaneous granting?
Our conversations, were to encourage them to apply to the recreation programs, because it's better suited, under the recreation grants that we offer. I don't recall right now if they applied in 2024 for 2025 or 2023 for 2024. But that's how we recommended it. To me, it's a better suited, better fit through the recreation grants program. So that's what we've communicated to them previously.
And with that, I'm fine with that. I just didn't know if it was in here or through your program is fine. If they don't apply, well, shame on them.
Okay.
So thanks.
All right, and the last one was the nurse practitioner program, currently being funded by the aggregate levy reserve, which I understand is shrinking rapidly. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, no.
I wouldn't say rapidly, Madam Chair.
is shrinking.
It's, our intake of funds is down a little bit, but I don't think
We can afford this out of this.
We can afford this. This is a good use of taxpayer money.
Absolutely one of the best ways that we've partnered across the region Probably one of the best successes I've seen in healthcare in probably 10 years is this nurse practitioner. Councillor Belazer?
Yeah, it's just a comment to Mr. Coleman. Thank you. I found it. He knows what I mean.
Okay. But again, great. I understand that way oversubscribed. People are still showing up wanting to have access. And I wish we could find a way to highlight this program, not just nurse practitioners in general. Why have we been so successful? Warburg, Thorsby, Leduc County. We need to share that story. Councillor, Councillor, yep.
I just want to thank council for indulging and hearing me out on what we talked about, increasing the social network that we have. One of our strategic plans is community. And that doesn't just mean Rick Smith, who may be doing well. It doesn't mean a senior that needs a ride. It also means the families that do dramatically need our help. And that's the fabric of the communities that when we improve them, we have a better community for our residents to live in, to work in, and for their children to go up. So thank you for that extra time this morning.
Councillor
I
Scobie?
guess just to comment on the nurse practitioner, the 50,000 for assistant. She is dealing with, she's got about 400 people listed as her patients. And this assistant has actually pretty much doubled her capacity. So there's 200 residents out there in the West that have a nurse practitioner, a healthcare provider. We're paying $50,000 for this assistant, which doubles her capacity. So, which is left, like I say, 200 people out there in the West that have a healthcare provider available to them. So I think it's well spent money.
Okay. Ms. Klamoska, we've gone through. Have you been keeping track, or we want to come back to this?
So what we've done is created a change just to the spreadsheet that you had within your package to create a budget deliberations column. So what we've done is we've put all the various discussion items, did put in half of the value of the Canadian Energy Museum as well all of the changes that Councillor Smith had brought forward. So we've put them all in. So that results in an increase of $28,000 overall to the budget that was proposed within the budget document originally. I'll just transfer the screen over to Ms. Weiss, and she'll show you the impact overall to the tax dollar requirement if we were to make that change.
So overall, if we were to add the entire 28,000, we would go up to a 1.82% tax from 1.76 to 1.82.
Go ahead.
Could you also add in what the chamber's original ask was, just so we could see what that difference would be too, please?
That would bring us up to.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So the increase, if it was for the chamber, the increase back to the original ask would be 37,481, and that would bring our total tax to 1.89%.
Okay, I'm okay actually with the $28,000. I appreciate administration working really hard to manage our budget, but Rick is right. Our community isn't necessarily just the people who get up every day and can go to work and have good lives. And we hear that a lot from Mr. Honesty. And if his staff don't have somewhere to refer or to support the work he does, then it's not helpful. So perhaps some of these organizations help to round out that support that we can provide. It might only be 2 families a year, but those 2 families have been helped. Councillor Smith?
Sorry, I just wanted a clarification on the 1.8 that we jumped up. That's without any new assessment that may come into final budget, correct?
Correct.
And so we could, if there at a moment, if there was any growth, could realize the numbers going back. And just going into transit, I also have some information which may see a cut in the request there, which is the next tab. So that again can help us reduce it and try to keep it to the targeted number. Thanks for that clarification on maybe more coming in later on final budget.
Any other questions on this? We're not making a final decision. What I would suggest is that we have the numbers here. We let it sit. Perhaps we look at it right after lunch. By then, we've had an opportunity to think about it. Is it $28,000 reasonable? Is it not reasonable? How does it impact every resident and business in Leduc County? We move on to tab 23, public transit. And then we can chew on this until after lunch if council is okay with that. There were some significant changes there and some discussion. Thank you again, Mr. Honesty, for your knowledge. Mr. Meriglod, public transit. And you had a nice preamble from Councillor Smith knowing that there's something new coming. So I'm sure that that has helped make you feel ready for the presentation.
Absolutely. So what we'll do is we'll start off with the budget summary. So the operating budget for 2024, 1.19837 million, which is a excuse me, which is a change of $397,382. And there is one new initiative in place for this of $296,000, which I believe was discussed earlier concerning additional hours for the on-demand transit. Moving into the enhanced transit, the budget essentially stays the same as far as the total sum, but the allocation between the two line items has been changed. Traditionally, this was always split 50-50, but this does not necessarily reflect the fiscal reality. One is for the EIA 747 route, which we partner with the City of Leduc and the City of Edmonton on. That is the the purchase from other governments and agencies. And then the general services contracted is the EIA on-site transit service that we cost share. We pay for on the EIA property. That's split between ourselves and the City of Leduc. Moving on to the Leduc transit. I guess maybe I'll stop.
Any
at
questions on
transit.
advanced transit?
All right, moving on to public transit. Again, the series of changes throughout this budget as well. What I'll do is I'll focus mostly on the summary of changes. So underneath the 1-300 series, which is sales of goods and services to other governments, there's an increase in bus pass revenue due to increased ridership. You've been seeing a lot more folks on the bus, so more ridership basically means reduced costs once you net it out against the expenses. The other increases would be on the expense side. So the 2-300 series, which is purchases from other governments and agencies, the increase in contracted services costs, bus maintenance and fuels for Route 1 and 10. We also have an increase in reserve transfers and grants. This is a decrease in transfer reserves for bus replacements. And then lastly, 2-800, which is the financial services charges increase in transaction fees to reflect actual. So even with the change in service level, not a pretty market change in the total costs associated with it. So.
Okay, any questions on public transit? Seeing none.
The last one is Leduc County Transit. And basically this is a portion of earnings and benefits for Leduc County Transit and project management positions. So we do pay for some of the position associated with Leduc Transit, and that's also reciprocated. So underneath the 2-100 series, an increase related to changes in earnings and benefits. So that's a $10,602 increase.
Okay, thank you. Counselor, before you start slashing and adding or whatever it is you have been working on late at night, when I just do rough math, the county is investing over $1.1 million in transit. So between the last piece, the county transit, which was $35,000, public transit proposed budget $583,000, proposed budget from enhanced transportation $400,000. So I just wanted to make that point because it is a significant investment. And again, it demonstrates our commitment to, in this case, mostly our business community our commitment to our airport and our continued commitment to, as we heard earlier, ensuring that we have that transit through our employment area, which is Nisku and the airport. So I just wanted to make that comment because it is significant. I didn't realize it was that significant, but it shows that we are in the game when it comes to transit. Councillor Smith, you can go.
I do have some questions. Now, we have an enhanced, I think we were looking at extra buses during the week and the weekend. Is that correct?
That was underneath Route 1 and Route 10, but through the budget review with the administratively, those were removed and we focused on the on-demand transit as being the best bang for our buck at this point in time. The other aspects that we wanted to examine are where the potential and contracted services to the city of Beaumont might be when we take a look at Leduc Transit as potentially providing services. And also seeing what the success might be with the grant that we put in place with the federal government for busing. As council's aware, we have placed a grant submission as part of Leduc Transit in with the federal government where the municipality would receive 80% grant funding from the federal government for bus replacements and renewals. So.
Okay, so if I may further to that, was there a plan A and a plan B to bring better bus service into Nisku, even on demand?
There is a plan A, plan B, and a plan C. So plan A within the new initiative.
Yep, it's on tab 10, first page. Increasing service hours from 28 to 56 hours per weekday and add service on the weekends. 29 hours on Saturday, 21 hours on Sunday. 2 additional buses are added to the 4 already in service. That will give us 6 buses serving that.
Yes, so there is, underneath this new initiative, there's 3 essential options provided to council for consideration. Alternative A, which is recommended by administration, which is 28 to 56 hours, increase of service hours from 28 to 56 on the weekdays, and add service on the weekends, 29 hours on Saturdays, 21 hours on Sundays, and 2 additional buses would be added to the 4 additional already in service for 296,000. Alternative B would be the increase on the weekdays only. So that's 28 to 56 hours per day. 2 additional buses would be added to 4 already in service. That would be for $210,000 versus the $296,000 that you see with alternative A. Alternative C is simply to status quo, do nothing, which is basically a $0 impact to budget.
Thank you for that. So after the library board last night, I did go home and watched Leduc City meeting their budget online, at which point the city of Leduc chose alternative B without weekend hours for savings of approximately $86,000, and that can be confirmed. So that is something that I think we probably need to look at alternative B as we have a partnership, then there would be a substantial saving. And if they change anything and go back to alternative A, which I doubt because they're struggling with a 5 to 6% increase. And that was information again that I watched last night on their budget deliberation. So you can confirm that, but I would suggest we choose alternative B. I would like to see weekend hours, but we're not going to be able to go it alone. So that could be a substantial savings today on our final numbers going in.
And again, as per our budget binder, it does say that Leduc Transit is a joint venture. Both Leduc County Council and City of Leduc Council need to agree on the level of service changes. In the event there's a discrepancy, the lowest common elements will be implemented subject to council review. So once they have finalized, then we will take a look at it and move forward. Okay. Was that, you have more?
No, I don't. Just a question. So will we be in final numbers presented today going with the alternative B? And if there's a need to boost an extra 85,000, do that at final? Because again, last night they voted on the alternative B, the cheaper one, which I would say is 99% the direction that they're going to go.
So let me suggest, Councillor Smith, that we have administration look at where they were in their decision. They might have just been doing straw poll like us. They might not have. You watched it, I didn't. And maybe, again, after lunch, we can confirm where they are in that process, and then that will impact our money as well.
And again, can we look at the spreadsheet with alternate A being in and alternate B based on the tax hit that we're still looking at, because I really stress how important the last boost of dollars were, and this may be an option to cover that off and still be in a position to lower below the 1.75. But that's just an option.
We always do that in budget. Administration keeps the same spreadsheet. We look at it and then we make the final decision about how we want to proceed. Counselor Scobie.
It's just a question on that. I'm kind of assuming that 99% of this ridership is people going to work. It's
Large significant
one.
majority is going to work.
I don't know what the numbers are, the ridership, and how many depend on this. I guess where I would look at it is what's the difference between the demand for people getting to work on the weekend versus what they're doing during, is what are people doing if they're working weekends and that's what they're depending on to get to work. I guess it would just be a matter of kind of seeing if there's any way to figure out what the numbers would be, what the demand would be.
Well, there must have been some demand or we wouldn't have suggested a weekend, right?
Exactly. This is all based on data because the routing system that's in place basically goes and selects where the rides have been requested, where they're going to, and selects the best route for that bus to pick up as many people as possible and get them to their location in a relatively timely manner. So the recommendation does come from Leduc Transit and from the professional that's in place there that takes a look at the data and provides necessary recommendations. And this is also reflected in our own transit needs assessment as well. So we've had independent verification as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll take a look at the decision from Leduc County, or sorry, City of Leduc, right after lunch. And we'll look at both scenarios in and out of our budget once we have that nailed down. But right now we're going to go to tab 9, page 28, which is the last page in fees and charges. And I see no changes, Mr. Mariglot.
No changes to the fees and charges for Leduc Transit.
And that is agreed upon with the City of Leduc, I
Yes.
assume?
That was recommended by the by Leduc Transit and reflected in both municipalities' budgets.
Okay, any questions on no changes? Seeing none, Mr. Mariglot, it is your morning. So we'll flip right over to tab 16, engineering.
All right. Before we get into the operational plan, there was a question regarding the subdivision drainage plans. So based on our analysis of the subdivision complaints that we received and we've tagged within our concern database, there are 13 subdivisions without overall subdivision drainage plans that have received more than one drainage complaint within the last 5 years. So that would be the initial group that we would look at. Obviously, within that 13, we would prioritize them based on danger to infrastructure, danger to people, those sort of things, and then move down to some of the other concerns. But right now, there are 13 subdivisions that we would consider to be a high priority. It would not necessarily be a good representation of all the subdivisions that do not have drainage plans, but the ones that we've received complaints about.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification, and on to your operational plan.
All right, within section 1, there are no changes to refer to. So what I'll move into is the action plan. So underneath goal 1, engineering is committed to increasing citizen satisfaction with Leduc County's municipal services and will incorporate actions within the ops plan in response to feedback received in the 2023 Citizens Satisfaction Survey. So with that, strategy 1.1 will be executing the transportation master plan. We do have a series of workshops set up with council. First one is next month, and next one would be in January. Once we have those necessary reviews in place and council has the necessary approval in place and adoption of the TMP, we can move forward on the action plan. So these are elements that are within the TMP as it sits today, and that would require action. So the first one would be identification and monitoring of key intersections and corridors that have unusually high number of traffic accidents. So this would be complete in Q1 of 2024, and deliverable out of this is a list of intersections and corridors that are of concern, complete with a monitoring plan. The second action would be engagement with other communities in the integration of transit services in other regions. This would be Q2, sorry, of 2024. Engage in other communities where feasible and mutually beneficial and have Leduc County establish service agreements to provide transit service. So the ones that we're looking at right now is the City of Beaumont. In fact, I do have a presentation with the Leduc Transit with the City of Beaumont today to discuss their potential transit service and provided by the city of, sorry, not City of Leduc, but it's Leduc Transit, as well as the next step would be looking at the town of Devon, who's also put in inquiries as well. The third one is identification and monitoring of key intersections and corridors that support heavy truck movements. So the first one deals mostly with the safety of the traveling public and vehicles. The second one is heavy truck movement. So this is more of a business development aspect. This would be completing Q3 2024, and this will provide a list of intersections and corridors that are important to heavy truck movements, complete with a monitoring plan. We do want to make sure that Nisku is a place to do business, and making sure that goods and services can move with little impact is important. And then the last one underneath goal 1 is adopt a roadway classification system complete with typical road cross sections and active transportation considerations were deemed appropriate. This would be Q4 2024. And the deliverable would be a road classification system map for the county, complete with a series of roadway cross sections appropriate for that neighborhood's context. So for instance, you may not necessarily see a bike lane along Glen Park roadway, but you would definitely see a multi-use path along Township Road 510. Goal 2, create.
Counselor, sorry, Mr. Murglod, go ahead.
Thank you. Your first action, your intersections and corridors, that will not include provincial highways. That would just be Leduc County roadways. Is that correct?
It may include provincial highways because most of the major corridors are intersections at the highways. So we will still do the traffic counts. We can do analysis as necessary. We can see what kind of improvements might be necessary within the areas underneath our jurisdiction, but it may be subject of advocacy for council in order to try to improve the prevalence of these intersections on the province's radar. The province tells me that they do analysis of all their intersections on a regular basis, and they do have a priority for the improvements to these intersections based on safety. We are not privy to that list. It's deemed to be confidential information, but with this, we could probably advocate and try to improve the chance of intersections that we deem necessary for improvement to have a higher priority on their list.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions before I move on to goal 2? All right, goal 2, create an environment for developers where they have surety of costs, have infrastructure available when it's necessary while ensuring that costs are appropriately allocated. So underneath this would be updating the Greater Nisku and Area Offsite Levy bylaw. So we'd update the infrastructure requirements and costs of our Greater Nisku Offsite Levy bylaw. So this is a joint project with the Planning and Development Department. They'll be looking at the actual bylaw itself, the land use component, but we'd be focusing on the infrastructure required to deliver the land use plans that are in place. So this would be Q4 2024 deliverable, and what would be provided is an updated inventory of Nisku offsite levy infrastructure, costs, and supporting documentation for inclusion into the updated bylaw. Any questions? All right. Moving on to strategy 2.2, in conjunction with utilities, ensure Leduc County is business ready for any potential new developments. So the first one is upgrading the New Sarepta Reservoir to provide appropriate capacity for current land use and to accommodate future developments. This would be Q4 2024. And a deliverable, try this again, a deliverable would be the completion of the New Sarepta Reservoir upgrade project. The design is complete right now. The tender is complete. So once the necessary approvals are in place, we can go and post this project for tender. The second one was one that was in place. So construct East Vista's transmission water line. That has been deferred to 2025 right now. So since then, that's been deferred. Again, this is looking at budget availability. This is looking at the necessary manpower to go and deliver this project. We have consulted with the development community, and this deferral will not have any impact to their development desires.
Thank you. Councillor Lewis?
And as always, you'd talk with the Water Commission about the increase in the line and the demand for water you would need for these new constructions?
Yes, what we have to do is every year we do provide updated projections on what our water use will be. So we do take a look at what development do we plan to see in NISCU, what we plan to see in the residential areas, as well as the new SREP. Then we submit those to the commission for inclusion within their master planning.
Councillor Smith?
A question on the East Vistas. If you were to see 400 new houses in there over the next year, would you have the capacity to get there?
Based on what we hear from the developers consultants, we are in a good spot right now based on what they expect for development over the next year. So 2025, we do need to consider this project, but it's not necessary for 2024.
And a follow-up, please. Is this going to be an offsite levy funded project?
Yes, it will be.
Okay, which we have. And a third one, which was just an add-on to Councillor Lewis's, will you be also notifying the Water Commission of your west area structure plan and the need for water as part of the planning session going forward, just to get that bug out to the commission members that we're moving forward with that project?
Let's go.
Within the project profile document for that ASP, it does speak to the requirements for the infrastructure to support development.
And if I could, I'm looking forward to seeing that at the Water Commission as an announcement within their agenda. Thank you.
All right, always looking at when the county is ready for development. Thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, I'll move on to goal 3. So establish a county-owned aggregate source as an alternative to the open market to effectively manage a county's future aggregate costs. Strategy 3.1 is develop an alternative aggregate source for the county purposes. So the action would be to obtain the necessary permitting for the development of the Genesee gravel source with the delivery of Q4 2024. And deliverable would be to have all the permitting in place to allow that gravel source to be developed. The second action would be to develop the necessary tender documents for development of Genesee gravel source, again Q4 2024. And the deliverable would be the actual tender documents completed for future project implementation. So we want to have the ability to go and implement that project, again, subject to budgetary approval. Moving on then, goal 4, Leduc County will deliver an efficient transit system to meet the needs of our businesses and residents. The strategy 4.1 would be to track and evaluate the success of Leduc Transit. So the action would be development of key performance indicators to determine success of the Leduc Transit joint venture. Target for this would be Q3 of next year, and a presentation of key performance indicators to council. So Leduc Transit has been moving for some time here, but we have no really key performance indicators to determine how well it's doing other than the ridership that's reported to council on a monthly basis. It'd be good to have some other type of metrics in order to determine where Leduc County or Leduc Transit's doing well and maybe where they need some improvement. Strategy 4.2 is to obtain surety on costs and level of service for external transit agreements. This would be as part of Leduc Transit, establish service agreements with Edmonton International Airport and Edmonton Transit Service. Target date for this would be Q4 of next year, and development, execution, and transit service agreements with the Edmonton International Airport and Edmonton Transit Service. So right now, the 2 transit service agreements are part of the airport accords. However, the language within this agreement is not necessarily as robust as it needs to be. It's not necessarily as clear as it needs to be, and it definitely could use some work. So having some separate transit agreements would provide some more surety of costs and more structure around the entire process. Any questions before I move forward? All right. Goal 5, create an efficient transportation infrastructure that meets communities and business needs. This complete the 4-lane design in Nisku Spine Road from Township Road 510 all the way south to Highway 625. So the actions would be to complete the design of the 4-laning of the Nisku Spine Road from 510 to ensure from 510 to 625 to ensure this project is shovel ready. One thing I do want to highlight is we do have the design already ready to go for 625 down to Airport Road. So this would fill in the last portion of 4-laning.
Councillor Smith?
Thank you for doing that. Again, we were always asked when we meet with the provincial counterparts where projects we're looking at. You do have shovel-ready 625 to Airport Road, which could be a phase one if we could find money for next year, moving into the 2025 construction. And really appreciate finishing the top section of that because it would, again, with just some of the political changes going on in the province and our proven record of economic development in that area through the development that we've already done, again, our advocacy should then focus into the one section, which will help us better connect to 65th Avenue, as well as finishing the other. So I do appreciate that. And it's another shovel-ready project that we can roll out when our MLAs come in, or we have an opportunity to speak to the federal government.
Absolutely. Having this project ready to go, if there's grant funding available, it's one that we could put together a grant submission fairly quickly. And also ensures that when there's new development that's adjacent to the roadway, that we do acquire the necessary right of way at that point in time as well. So then we can move forward with construction fairly quickly. We would look at having this project done by Q2 of next year. And the deliverable design and special provisions for our standard tender package is complete. So essentially, we would have a project that we could kick out at a moment's notice. Strategy 5.2 would be develop and implement gravel road reconstruction maintenance programs using data from the rural roads study. So this is the ongoing monitoring of our roadway network, and this is around the gravel road network. So these are reports that we do provide to Public Works Committee on an annual basis. So the action would be monitoring report on rural road network. Target date for Q3 2024 is to have the inspections complete, and Q4 to show the year-over-year improvement on the rural road network to Public Works Committee. Strategy 3.5 is development and implement of a surface road maintenance and rehabilitation program. So this would be monitoring, reporting on the pavement network. So we would, by Q3, we would report on the year-over-year improvement on the pavement network rating and have a report provided to Public Works Committee. And from that, we would implement and update the 5-year pavement preservation plan by Q4 2024. And this would be presented to Public Works Committee for review. And this is what we use as the primary document for developing our annual capital program. Moving into goal 6, continue to demonstrate leadership in the regional initiatives and organizations. So we'll continue to participate in Edmonton Metropolitan Board working groups and collaboratives. This is actually expanded this year. It's went over what's been underneath the EMRB. So the first two that are contained within the actions, the first one is participating in the EMRB Solid Waste Collaborative and in the Stormwater Collaborative, are initiatives that are underneath the EMRB. The third one is participate in the Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors Regional Network Study. So what this is a project undertaken by the provincial government to take a look at the Edmonton metropolitan region, looking at all the roadways within the region and determine where the network needs to be improvement with the goal of, I believe, 2070 for the deadline. So it's a pretty long-term view. The completion of this report would be Q2 of 2025, and out of this would be a completed Edmonton Regional Network Study that aligns with the county's strategic goals. So this would be the long-term plan for the capital region to ensure that there's enough transportation infrastructure to address the needs and the growth projections for the region. The last one is participate in the Leduc Transit Technical Roundtable. So what this is a group of capital region transit groups that basically gather together to promote a number of things. They want to have fair portability. They want to have different initiatives in order to reduce operational costs. So this could be things like joint procurement, transit service alignment, elements like that, but also promoting expansion of local transit where necessary. The work that we're doing with the city of Beaumont and with the town of Devon aligns with this perfectly. The one thing that's definitely being underscored by this group is they do not want to infringe on the municipalities or the different transit organizations' ability to self-govern and self-determination. So we're working together, but at the end of the day, we are not looking at a central regional transit organization. We want to make sure that we do have things aligned so it's as seamless as possible for the user, both from a fares perspective as well as a ridership perspective. But at the same time, there's no need to go and tread down that road again. So
Yeah, been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
did not work well. So,
All right, on to your budget, Mr. Miglaw.
all right. So we do see the operating summary in front of you. So their operated budget dollars for 2024 is $2.3 million and change. Budget change is $563,982 increase. Major project capital plans is $1,421,382, which is a decrease of $781,619 and $60,000 worth of new initiatives.
Okay, moving on to the leadership and administration summary page.
Okay, so I'll mostly focus on a summary of changes. So no changes in revenues. In the expenditure side, underneath the earnings and benefits, there is a $12,987. This increase related changes in earnings and benefits. There is a change underneath general services contracted. 10,000 decrease in ad hoc engineering as more work will be done in-house. 10,000 decrease in ad hoc consulting as more work is targeted to be done in-house. 4,000, there's my words, 4,300 decrease in professional development training and staff, and a 1,100 increase in memberships to align with actuals. Underneath goods, supplies, and materials purchased, $1,200 increase in safety boot allowance and other supplies. There is a $16,900 increase in street lighting due to higher electrical costs and additional inventory, and $2,700 increase in signal lights due to additional electrical costs for additional inventory. These are mostly on the Nisku Spine Road with the new development. New streetlights are installed with every single development that we need to address, as well as traffic signals to promote access to those new developments. There's a $1,000 increase in stationery to align with actuals and minor increases in food to align with actuals. And then lastly, in financial services charges, there's an increase in debenture payments for reconstruction Township Road 510 from Nisku Spine Road to Range Road 243.
Any questions on any of the changes in leadership and administration? Seeing none, on to the bridge program.
No changes.
Okay. On to road data collection. There is a change there.
Yes, there is a $20,000 increase. This increase in traffic data and traffic speed sign subscriptions. We were working with the company that provides our speed signs. So those radar speed signs, they have a cloud subscription so you can access the data remotely. This gives us traffic count as well as speed data. So for the last number of years, we haven't been paying for subscriptions because we've been having some issues with connectivity. Everything's been ironed out. It's working flawlessly. So now we'll be paying for the subscriptions for those signs. The second one is for a service called Streetlight, which is a traffic data that is provided via cell phone movements. I believe this was provided to Public Works Committee some time ago. So we'd be able to go in Nisku and get data on the different links based on the cell phones that are moving around the area. So alternative way for us to get data and to get wholesale data versus doing it road by road.
Big brother is watching.
They are, unfortunately, but it does help us out. Any questions on that before I move to the surfacing program?
Surfacing program.
All right. There is a $10,000 decrease in, this is in general services contract, decrease in serving engineering support to align with actuals.
Okay, thank you. And then if there's no questions on that, we'll go to tab 9. Page 5, so that's fees and charges.
Okay.
No changes.
Perfect. So following engineering is utilities. So we'll go to tab 26.
Tab 26, which is utilities, waste management. Both of them are under the same one. Tab 26.
Moving, no changes within sections 1. So what I'll do is I'll move into section 4, the action plan, if that's okay.
Yep.
All right, so action plan goal 1, utilities committed to increasing citizen satisfaction with the Leduc County's municipal services. and will incorporate actions within our operational plan in response to the feedback received as part of the 2023 Citizen Satisfaction Survey. So underneath strategy 1.1, examine opportunities to expand waste diversion within Leduc County. So what we plan on doing is complete a survey to measure customer interest in implementation of organics diversion program within the curbside pickup areas. Target date for this would be Q3 2024, and a summary report on the results presented to Public Works Committee. So this is something we try to do in-house, do some necessary costing, some potential alternatives, and from there gauge the acceptance of any kind of program and the costs associated with that, balanced against environmental stewardship in those areas. Goal 2 would be create an environment for developers where they have surety of costs, have infrastructure available when it's necessary while ensuring costs are appropriately allocated. This is update the Nisku, Greater Nisku and area offsite levy bylaw. So the engineering group would be looking after the mostly the roads component, and they'd have a role in the water and wastewater component. The utilities group as well would have a role in this as well. So we do want to highlight that when you do undertake a project like an offsite levy bylaw, it is a organizational wide initiative and it does have impacts across the board. So with this would be representing the impact to the utilities group. Moving into strategy 2.2, in conjunction with engineering, ensure that Leduc County is business ready for any potential new developments. This is the reservoir project. With any type of project that's delivered by engineering, this is ultimately being delivered for the utilities group. So they do have some ownership and stewardship responsibilities with this project. So they would be included and they would have a greater role right now with the transition of, or some changes in staff rather. Having our manager of engineering recently resigned, that we do have some additional responsibilities that we'll place on them on the interim to ensure this project proceeds smoothly. Moving into goal 3, contribute to the economic resilience of Leduc County. So strategy 3.1 is to secure alternative revenue sources. And with this, we're looking at renewing the Edmonton International Airport's utility operations and management contract. Target date for this would be Q2 of 2024 as it does come due at this point in time. And deliverables for this would be a new agreement is executed. Strategy 3.2 is examine sustainability stormwater infrastructure and its funding requirements. So complete a detailed review of all stormwater infrastructure and develop a multi-year maintenance plan commencing in 2024. Commencing the project in 2024. Target date for this would be Q1 of 2025, and this would be completing the inspection of stormwater management assets in 2024. So we look at establishing a system similar to what we do for our roadway network, that we would have a series of criteria that we'd evaluate, and then from here, we'd be able to generate a plan for improvements. The second action, we develop and propose stormwater management infrastructure budgets. So this would be Q3 2024 with the desire of trying to have something ready for council consideration. So this is a complete stormwater management budget. So we have a better idea of exactly what kind of costs are associated with maintaining our stormwater assets. Moving into goal 4, improve Leduc County solid waste and recycling services. So this would be implement the recommendations of the strategic waste management plan. This is a plan that we completed a couple of years ago. Complete corporate standards to be implemented at all transfer stations. So in Q3, we would conduct an audit of all transfer station sites. And within Q3 as well, complete a cost benefit analysis for feasible waste diversion opportunities to advance the county's environmental, social, and government, so ESG initiatives. Within Q4 2024, develop a multi-year transition plan to achieve a corporate standard at all transfer stations. So we don't necessarily want to have a big rollout. It's something that we want to roll over time. So this would be a phasing plan of how to roll this out. And within Q4 2024, investigate the cost and feasibility of implementing scan card system and other technologies for transportation access cards. We try to work fairly closely with the Leduc and District Regional Landfill to see if there's some way that we could join up those systems. I know that they have a scale software system review underway right now, and there might be a way where we could have one universal card, at least for Leduc County residents. That would be my end goal. Whether that's achievable or not, I'm not necessarily sure, but would like to have some type of scan card system for our residents to improve access to all our residents and new residents as well.
Any questions on the plan? Seeing none, on to your budget summary.
Okay. Moving into that, so operating budget, for 2024, $1,136,507. Budget change is down, $143,343. Moving into leadership and administration, maybe what I will do is I'll simply ask if there's any questions on any changes, underneath the explanations.
Any questions to the explanations? My question is the $25,000 to decrease in consulting to support a one-time project. Was that for our solid waste plan?
This was actually at the Luma transfer station to do some preliminary design.
Thank you. Any other questions on the leadership and administration page? Councillor Lewis.
No question, just a comment. I see there's a $6,700 decrease in the highway signage for the transfer stations. Just a comment on those signs. They're awesome. Thank you.
That was one of the things that fell out of our strategic waste management plan, and it was installed by our road operation services. So it really was a county initiative.
Thank you. On to curbside pickup.
Jenny?
Oh, sorry.
And just before we go away from solid waste, now this isn't related to our budget, but I don't know, Des, if you were informed as of yesterday, the $700,000 check has been received to the commission from the Louisville and federal government program on the clay that was backed up for a long time, and the money was supposedly, don't know where it was, but that now has been paid as of yesterday.
No, I was not aware. Thank you very much for that. And I will.
What I will do is I will copy this and send it to you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, curbside pickup. There's only a few minor adjustments there. Any
Yeah, just to
questions?
find a few minor adjustments, and just we provide curb pickup for 348 residences now.
348 in our urban areas.
Yes.
Transfer stations. Any questions on transfer station? Looking at the explanations and ups and downs. I'm seeing no hands. That was solid waste, waste management. We're going to go to tab 27 and look at wastewater collection.
All right, so waste, again, this one's a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus mostly on the changes from previous years.
Absolutely.
So there is wastewater collection service areas managed by Director of Engineering Utilities who leads a team of 8 full-time. This is an increase of 1 full-time position at the EI to deal with the workload. So significant amount of work associated with that project, and that's again captured within all the contracted costs. So no impact to the users within any of the wastewater systems. We also provide wastewater services to 347 residences in New Sarepta Greater Nisku area and 764 businesses within Nisku Industrial Park. 96 Hamlet Lagoon residences use our lagoon for sewage disposal. Leduc County also has a contract to manage and operate the water and wastewater systems at YAG. As I mentioned, this is a 3-year contract that commenced mid-2021, so it is coming due mid-2024. So we have already started discussions about the extension of that contract.
Okay.
Highlights for 2024. Leduc County customer water usage for 2024 is expected to increase by approximately 80,000 cubic meters from previous year's budget. This is made up of a projected increase of 30,000 cubic meters in Nisku. The 2024 usage for residences in New Sarepta and Greater Nisku area is expected to increase by 14,000 cubes. And the 2024 usage at EIA is expected to increase by 36,000 cubic meters from previous year's budgets. The 2024 wastewater budget reflects a 35-cent increase from air utilities and a 5-cent operational increase. This will be a total increase of 40 cents based on the previous factors. One thing I do want to highlight is part of the original rate review that we completed with council, we did have some money allocated for infrastructure renewal. We have basically not included that in this year's rate increase, considering the rate increase from Aero Utilities. It's not fair and appropriate. So it does put us a little bit behind the 8 ball because this is money that is for infrastructure renewal and replacement. By not putting that money into reserves for future infrastructure renewal and replacement, it has the risk of creating challenges for us later on in order to fund these renewals and replacements. But understanding the significant rate increase that we were seeing from the commission, we have basically deferred that for this year. There's a 54-cent monthly service charge for the base meter size, so that's 5/8 of a meter, and a $13.46 increase for the largest meter inventory, which is 4 inches. The revenues will provide funding for the following changes in expenditures: other professional services, an increase of $6,400 to conduct a more robust sampling program at a Nisku transfer station, with the end goal of being able to allocate overstrength charges to users that incur them. Right now, it's kind of everybody pays for it, whether the sewage is overstrength or not. We like to try to develop a system where who is ever generating the overstrength wastewater pays that overstrength charges, which would hopefully then decrease the charges for the other users who use that service. Repairs and maintenance, engineering structures, an increase of $30,800 to address manhole issues and address bed building settlement at the Nisku transfer station, and to enhance preventive maintenance program for lagoons to increase efficiency of wastewater treatment processes. Equipment rentals, an increase of $7,600 for interceptor cleaning at the Nisku transfer station. There's a 35-cent rate increase as mentioned from the commission, as mentioned earlier. An increase of $710,752 representing an increase in rates, in overstrength charges from Aero Utilities, and an increase in volume treated to accommodate growth. So, yeah, that says enough for itself. And then reserve contributions of $358,506 for future infrastructure renewal and replacement. So we do have some money that we are putting into the bank account for other purposes. The table below for 2023, 2024 does highlight the changes based on 2023, 2024 for a service charge, which is a monthly cost, the uniform rate, which is a per meter cost, as well as the cost per month. This highlights the change in our utility rate increase as well as the commission rate increases. We also do a household affordability calculation every year. So based on a 5/8 meter and 15 cubic meters of water usage, the average household will see a $6.53 per month increase for the wastewater charges. The average monthly household wastewater charges will increase to 1.1% of average household income, 1.4% of the average household disposable income, and 3.68 hours at minimum wage. So we're still not in bad shape, but a lot of these factors are things beyond our control.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Smith.
I do have a comment on the increased rate, which is substantial to our residents, again, being the person that sits on the wastewater commission as a representative to Leduc County, but a separate commissioner. It's been a tough year at the commission. They've raised up to $1.85. Look for another raise of probably up to $2.05 next year. However, in our budget, which we passed last week, we agreed to contracting a outside engineering firm to do a master plan, which will be conducted in the new year. There was a letter from the mayor sent to the commission asking for them to come to council. I've requested that they meet with our CAO first to make sure that everything can be presented in public for our residents to view and watch what they're doing. But I can assure you again, the numbers that they had did not include the $50 million, which seems to be extremely likely from the Treasury Board with the province of Alberta at almost 17 million a year over 3 years. And I am going to Ottawa next week to speak to the federal government for the other 50 million. So that could substantially stabilize the need to build the extremely old infrastructure, concrete pipes, to meet the demand of the alleged 1 million people moving into the area over the next while, as well as a wastewater to hydrogen project, which will be a revenue generator, which I have looked into assurances that that's going ahead and there's a commitment. So I'm shocked. I know our residents will see quite the gain, but when we look at household affordability, which our administration has used an AWWA framework, we're still at 1.1% affordability, and they recommend between 1% and 2% of monthly income. So even with a substantial rate, Leduc County is doing its part to make sure that these utilities are affordable for our residents. I thank you for that. And again, being a representative on the Wastewater Commission, I'll continue to work to protect our businesses as well as our residents and make sure that that stabilizes over there to the satisfactory of the 13 municipalities that are a part of it.
Thank you. So since you brought it up, Councillor Smith, should those grants be, should the commission be successful in those grants, will this increase then become null and void because they will have grant money to support it?
The $1.85, they're going ahead with that, and they do need that this year as they need the cash flow. So you're not going to see a change. However, you may see within the next one, it's projected to go to 205 in the 2025 year, and you could see changes within that stabilization and then rates holding for several years. Again, with that, again, nothing is certain in government. However, the Alberta government wants to invest in the hydrogen production, and it looks like they may be committing, as I said, to 16.7 million per year over 3 years for their share of the 50 million of the $150 million project to upgrade our system and our plant.
Thank you. I know this increase is going to hit some of our residents hard in Division 2 that are part of the communal wastewater system that have the trucking and the haul and the disposal fee. This might put some of them over the top where they can't afford to live out in the county anymore due to the utility increase. So I'm not sure how we can communicate to them that this is coming or what we are doing to try to alleviate this increase to them.
Thank you, Mr. Murglod.
Yeah. What I can say we're doing is as soon as we do have a final budget and we have a good understanding where the rates are, we've already started drafting a letter to go to the high volume users as well as the users who have significant overstrength charges, inform them of the changes as soon as possible. We don't like surprises. No, we don't like providing surprises to our customers. So we do want to give them as much notice as possible. And with communities, let's say like Vantage Point, we have been working hard on trying to find alternative ways for them to treat their wastewater on site. Perfectly blunt, some of the provincial agencies that we've been working with have not necessarily been helpful, but we do have some successes that we can now potentially lean on. The Wildland Meadows wastewater treatment plant recently got started up, and to date, I hear everything's been going well. I have not heard any questions or concerns with that system. So that's something we're definitely going to be looking at as a potential alternative for some of those folks out there as an alternative to what they're spending right now. Wildland Meadows is spending $10,000 a month on hauling of wastewater.
And that's going to increase.
Would have increased if they didn't have their system in place.
Right. Well, what we hope, Councillor Lewis, is that the commission will come and present the rationale and the impacts and how they want to mitigate to council in a public meeting so that their decisions are as transparent as they can be to our residents that will be impacted. So we're hopeful on that. Okay, let's move on to, if there's no more questions, water distribution, which I don't think is quite as volatile, but I could be wrong.
No, that is a substantially different animal right now. Doesn't have the volatility as you mentioned. So we provide water services now to 552 residences in New Sarepta and surrounding Nisku surrounding area, and 773 business in Nisku Industrial Park. So within the 2024 highlights, county customer water sales for 2024 are projected to be approximately 50,750 cubic meters more than 2023. This projected increase is due to increased sales in Nisku Industrial Park. So 45,250 cubic meters, and in New Sarepta, which is 2,000 cubic meters, and in bulk water, 3,500 cubic meters. The 2024 distribution budget reflects a 5-cent rate increase from the commission. And there's also a 22 cents per cubic meter rate increase included for infrastructure renewal and replacement. As I mentioned, this is something that we could not include within the wastewater budget, but this is stuff, funding put away for the rainy day when we do need to replace utilities as they age. There's a question.
Go ahead.
In your highlights, I was just wondering again, the Leduc County has worked hard as well at the Water Commission to make sure the rates are stable. Now, I believe the rate was supposed to be $1.49 and they've cut that 5-cent rate increase and it's been reduced to $1. Councillor Lewis may want to help me out on this, but there is the 5% increase will not go through this year. So I'm just wondering with that extra dollars, how would you use that based on your rates, putting it into reserve for that rainy day you speak of?
I would suggest you probably put it into reserves and then that would potentially reduce the rate increases for future years then. Okay. No other questions? So the 2024 water distribution budget reflects a 5-cent rate increase from the commission. It sounds like that has changed fairly recently. A 22 cent per cubic meter. Oh, sorry, I'm repeating myself. Forgive me. There's an increase of 24 cents in the monthly service charge for the base meter, which is 5/8, and a $6.01 for large meter inventory, which is 4 inches. The revenues will provide funding for the following. Purchase from other local governments and increase 142,000, representing increase to rates. Again, this will change based on what we actually hear from the commission. Again, it sounds like there's been a change. And reserve contributions of $979,018 for future infrastructure renewal and replacement. The next table shows the water rate comparison. Again, very similar to the wastewater side where it has the different meter sizes, the increase in service charges from 2022 to 2023. Excuse me, the increase in uniform rate from 22 to 23, and then the cost per month and the commission increase. From a household affordability perspective, based on a 5/8 meter and 15 cubic meters of water purchased a month, the average household will see a $3.56 per month increase for the water charges. The average monthly water charges equate to 1.4% of the average household income, or 1.8% of the average household disposable income, or 4.8 hours at minimum wage.
Okay, any questions on water distribution? I am seeing none. We can go now, I assume, Ms. Klamosko, tab 9 for fees and charges bylaws for utilities, which is the second blue sheet in tab 9. So go to tab 10 and go back. And what are we seeing here, Mr. Meriglot? Are these just the commission increases as reflected on our charges?
No, this would be the commission and the county's rate increases. So that's an all-in rate. So we do see changes in the water meter service charge and uniform rates. We do see an rate increase as well at the Nisku New Sarepta fill stations, where it's going from 460 to 465, as well as hydrometer rental plus the uniform rate. So again, reflecting the rate increases that we're seeing through the commission. Within the wastewater services, it's exactly the same thing. These reflect the changes in the commission rate, as well as our own rate increases. We also do see a rate increase within the Hamlet wastewater systems and the Nisku wastewater transfer station costs. One note that we do want to highlight at the base of the table is note 1, service and collection set by Leduc County. This is 78 cents, and transmission and wastewater treatment set by our utilities is $1.85. Within all invoices that we'll be sending out to our residences, we have split out the commission charges from the county charges, both on the water and wastewater side, in order to provide transparency to our customers.
Thank you. That is a great idea. And again, know that not only through our member on the Wastewater Commission, but we are also working hard to get a clear understanding as a council about these increases and how they could be mitigated for not only our residents, but also our businesses. It is it is affecting affordability at a time where people are really feeling the pinch.
There's,
Yep.
Just a clarification, so you had proposed $1.69 from the Water Commission for their purchase price?
yes, so that will change based on the information that I received today.
And again, the document I have in front of me is that the sale rate will remain at $1.64, and that was approved in budget by Councillor Lewis and I and that commission. So again, good news for
Yeah.
that utility going forward, where some money can go back in to help stabilize a system we've been working hard on over the last 10 years since we've been here, where there wasn't much to. It's actually a very stable utility system.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The last thing I want to touch on is the overstrength charges. Since this document's been presented, the overstrength charges have changed from what the commission has previously provided me. So the lion's share of parameters do remain the same as far as our charges. So the biochemical oxygen demand, chemical oxygen demand, total suspended solids, and oils and greases all remain at a 10% increase. I did have 2% increases in the total nitrogen and total phosphorus based on what the commission previously provided me, based on the information that I was able to obtain on Monday. The total nitrogen is, rather than being an increase of 2%, is an increase of 0.3%. So it's going to $2.0630 per kilogram. And the total phosphorus, rather than increasing 2%, is a 1.6% increase. So that goes to $15 and 18.85 cents per kilogram. So moderate decrease in both those items. One thing I do want to highlight, while it's a good news story, the contaminants that we've been seeing in the overstrength streams frequently aren't overstrength on those two parameters. So most of the parameters where we see overstrength are in the COD, BOD, TSS, and oils and greases. So again, this will be part of the letter that will go out to the businesses that are affected by these changes. So we do have a few businesses that have high chemical oxygen demand, biological oxygen demand, oils and greases, and we do want to give them as much notice as possible about the rate increases, because that will have impacts to their bottom line as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mariglod. Appreciate your work in the Utilities and Engineering Department and the clarity that you presented your budget in. Thank you very much on behalf of council. Moving on to tab 18, Fire Services. LaFave is here and raring to go, with lots of exciting news coming out of fire.
As always.
As always, that's right. Never a boring moment. Again, we are into tab 18. And we will start with your, perhaps a couple words on your organizational chart and then into your priorities.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, you'll notice this year on our org chart, there is some updates with the addition of our new full-time fire service. That's been a bit of a change in how we reflect. The paid on call district chiefs have transitioned now into a one full-time 24/7 platoon chief filled by 4 FTEs. So that's a change this year. So you can see some changes in the org chart that way.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Moving ahead into our ops plan, strategy 1.1 on goal 1 really is to educate the public of the option of some online permitting across the county. I think this will result in some good uptake in our permitting, as well as it does allow for good current data for fire service in the event of a fire ban or other needs for communication amongst the permit holders. So the awareness campaign, the fire guardians trained, as well as the public rollout will all happen by the end of Q1 2024. We've got right now some work going on with the provider just to make sure there's no FOIP issues and stuff, but training is supposed to roll out pretty quick. Right now, we're outside of our permit season, which ended at the end of October. So Goal 2, enhance the county's ability to respond to wildfires. On the heels of our historic wildfire season across the province, we're looking at, if we need extra equipment, as well as we're going to train some of our other county employees as a bit of a backup to the backup. If it's all hands on deck, it's all hands on deck. So we are looking at upgrades to a couple of our squad units in Q1. Some wildland firefighting equipment that we can see we could add is in Q1. And then the training, not only with our own internal staff, but also to operational staff. A couple of half afternoons so that they can better assist us. We did have them out this spring and we just see an opportunity to utilize them if the need arises next year with El Nino. And obviously it's nearly December. We don't have any snow. Some people like that. It doesn't make me happy right now. Strategy 2.2, ongoing evaluation of fire services operation. I want to undertake a fleet review. I did a quick blush a couple years back, but really I need to really look into what our fleet looks like from a fire service perspective, make sure we have the right number of units in the stations and the right type of units. Demonstrating leadership. Leduc County's for many years has been a leader in the Capital Region Fire Training Association, where we have some of our people as board members on that, and we get grant money and then distribute it amongst the region. So this year we're hoping again to have a successful grant application, and then we're going to help to work on some training with regional municipalities as well as officer training, for our people as well as some of the regional firefighters by Q4.
Any more questions on the plan? Councillor Smith?
I do have one just going forward. And again, Chief, I had a chance to talk to you about this. I'm just wondering within your goals, if it's need to do an assessment of our coverage with the extra houses coming into the Churchill and Irwin Creek. And as you said to yourself, have you ever walked into a 1 million square foot warehouse and looked around? And those seem to be occurring quite frequently. Just wondering if one of your goals would be an assessment to speed up or get a sense of when we are we accurately reflecting when we need to build up there, or do we need to maybe look at something that may result in an earlier build as part of your goals?
Through the mayor, we are always keeping ourselves aware of what's going on. We're working closely with planning and development on what's happening in the neighborhood. We do have a long range plan for a fire station up there. I don't think it's in the next 2 to 5 years, but when the time is right. There's also other options in building codes. Doesn't always result in fire station, but we're analyzing and keeping current.
Okay. On to your, one more question before we move to the leadership and administration budget.
Sorry, I didn't see anything regarding continuous recruiting for new paid on call or fire recruits. Is that just something that you do no matter what?
Yeah, we're continually improving. As a matter of fact, one thing we have changed a little bit is that we're open more looking for the applications to make sure that we catch every fish that we can get on the hook.
Right.
We've just as you're aware, and thank you for attending, on Sunday, we graduated 20 new paid on calls across the county, which was a welcome addition. You've heard me say before that there's 30% vacancy rate across the country. So I'm happy that Leduc County can attract applicants and successfully turn them out. And we're already working on opening up right away here at the end of November for our spring recruit class. And we're doing well.
Okay. Well, you are the poster boy for how you can start at paid on call and become a chief. So that's probably one of the reasons. I mean, that is huge. I mean, if that isn't inspirational for someone who wants to have a career in fire, I mean, honestly, your success is there.
That's not all about me. But you know what? I think with our full-time cadre of firefighters now, there's an attraction there that people can see that growth. If they envision themselves as a full-time firefighter, they can start with Leduc County and end their whole career with Leduc County if they're successful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, budgets with leadership and administration. You can see there's quite a significant decrease there as the contract with the Edmonton Airport for that Squad 5 crew was in this budget. So there's other areas where the new full-time, where we've replaced this with our own internal services is showing. But for this part, there's a decrease of $2,980,000.
That's the big one. All right, so emergency, if there's no questions on that, emergency management.
So emergency management, the big change here really is, and I think you've heard this before, we've just taken the labor portion of our deputy fire chief that looks after emergency management and moved our labor into this area.
And again, what we're seeing in many of the budgets we've looked at is small changes, less than $2,000. Professional development, training, materials, those sorts of things. And we're seeing that reflected one way or the other in your budget as well. Councillor Lewis?
Thank you. Just a comment to administration. Back when we discussed building a new fire hall and canceling our contract at the airport, we were told it would be about a $3 million decrease. And it shows here in funding. So I just wanted to thank you for following through on exactly what you said it would be.
I mean, some of that we had to spend on the.
It's okay.
But through the mayor, really, this also stops that increasing 3% annually that we were seeing in that contract too. So.
Yes, that we had no control over. Yeah. Okay, into fleet and facilities, I believe, is next.
Fleet and facilities, we didn't have much big changes there, as you can see. A little bit in tires. We continue to search for the elusive heavy-duty mechanic, which is hard to recruit, but so we're seeing a little bit more outsourcing right now. We're hoping to fill that vacancy as soon as possible. Not all in all, and not a big change. $3,000 decrease, actually.
Okay, any questions on that? And some of those are probably driven by inflation as well, your bottle rentals and things like that. Councillor Scobie?
Well, I've seen it isn't much. It's $2,500 for increase your fuel for backup generators. We run generators that much that like there's a $2,500 increase in that.
So through the mayor, the generators are pump tested once a month, and then even though they've got stabilized fuel, there's a requirement to change the fuel out every so often. So that would be this year is one of those.
Okay.
I don't know what they do with the fuel they pump out, but it's a different.
Use it to start fires.
You pump it into your truck.
Only when it's safe and we have a permit, though.
Moving forward to operations, if there's no more questions.
No, there are no more questions.
You can see the impact of the transfer of that contract to internalizing. So there's an increase here of 1.7 million in earnings and benefits. That's for our new full-time firefighters.
So just in your preamble under your service overview, Leduc County now takes care of fire from east to west and north to south, correct?
As of January 1st, we do have a signed agreement where as of January 1st, we will be taking over formal oversight of Warburg Fire. And so, yes, we will have full oversight with it, except for the larger municipalities, the City of Leduc, Beaumont, and Devon. We're looking after the whole county.
And I think that speaks well to consistency. It speaks well to collaboration. It really is about how we work with our neighbors. And I think that's a pretty amazing thing for us to be able to have in place. Councillor Smith?
I have to agree with the mayor on that after we decided not to go forward with LERFs and decided that our fire department is second to none. I think the transition from what you've done to the emergency services, taking over, managing, as the mayor says, east, west, north, south, has been phenomenal and a very successful transition.
On to if there was no questions on operations, then we'll be looking at the page that says public service, education, and safety codes.
So you can see the change here really again is that changing in the staff into this service area. And so that's the main change there. And a little bit additional, we need a new Sparky costume. We wore the other one out, so as much as we're looking for some donations, we've got a little bit there to cover the cost of replacing our Sparky.
Was there an organization that actually raffled off their old mascot and made quite a bit of money? That might be, whatever it was, that might be a good idea.
It was the government of Alberta and it was a donaire.
Okay. Sparky's way cuter than a donaire. I'm putting that in for Leduc County days. We're gonna raffle off the old mascot costume. Okay. I'm always looking for a price point here and way to make money. On to training.
For training, there's no real significant change here. We've got a bit of a decrease in revenue due to decreased use of the training facility. We are getting that regional training grant like I talked about for 2023, so that's reflected here. And then we always try and balance, if we're not making good revenues, we don't spend money on the training academy either. So
Okay. Any questions on training? Seeing no hands. Oh, puts us to the end, which takes us to tab 9 again, page 7, fees and charges.
yeah, so through the mayor, you can see that for the most part, what we've done is cleaned up the language to make it easier to understand. Is that not the right one? Well, that's just page 7 is what we're,
Page 7, yeah.
anyway, sorry, that threw me off a bit, but so you can see the red marks here in the edits. We're just cleaning up the language so it's easier to understand. And as far as the charges, just the normal county 3% increases in there, and so that affects a little bit of the GST. We've tried to keep any increases as small as possible, but while aligning with other areas of safety codes and, you know, to make sure that an hour's wage is covered if we do an hour's work here, so.
When I look through some of your training costs, you can see why training is so expensive with your smoke and all of those sorts of things per day. It's an expensive endeavor to do training, which is why it's good that we do it collaboratively.
Yes, and with grant money.
Any questions on any of the fees and charges? Okay, I'm seeing no one. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. We are still looking at a January start of the new station.
Our new full-time people are in there doing onboarding right now. We're
Wow.
going 24/7, December 11,
Wow.
so that we can get a couple of weeks of 24/7 before January 1, when Squad 5 goes out of service. And although ATCO didn't show up yesterday when they were supposed to, we are hopeful that the 22nd of December, we're actually going to be moving into the new fire hall. So
That is very exciting. I know we were thinking we were a little bit behind. So maybe this dry fall weather has been maybe not great for fire prevention, but has been great for construction.
absolutely.
Counselor Smith.
I may have prematurely asked this question before. Will we be cutting ribbon at the airport for the new fire hall before Christmas?
Sounds like the 22nd, yes.
Well, we were, through the mayor, we're looking at a spring. We are still going to have construction going on
Right.
while we're in there. So
Okay.
we want to let that finish off, and then we'll have a grand opening in the spring. I mean, I could say, not while there's snow on the ground, but that wouldn't hold
We
today.
don't know what the spring will look like. But again, thank you to you and your staff for the oversight, for the work with our builder, for the ability to work across the whole county with your fire services. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you for your budget. We always have a hard time saying no to fire, but that's partly because it's you. No, except for Mr. Coleman, yes.
And thank you for your ongoing support. I have a really strong team with me. It's not all about me. And we do look at every line item when it comes to budget time, and we do a 3-year analysis. So
And
We
we
put a lot of
know that and we appreciate it. Thank you.
have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Ms. Klamosko, what now?
So this afternoon, we have moved the items that were planned for Thursday to go through the approval of the 2 fees and charges bylaws, and then a review of the adjustment summary, and then an approval of the budget. So the one thing that I would like to ask council is if there are any questions, now that we've concluded our department presentations, are there any questions that you might have that you would like an answer to prior to our discussion this afternoon? If something came up this morning that we could look at getting an answer for you over the lunch hour, then we would strive to do that. Just if there's those things that came up, I just wanted to ask that question before lunch.
Perfect. Counselor Smith?
I do have one. Is it possible then for the afternoon adjustments to have the water rate changed? And I have the documents here. I'll show you after the meeting that the rate is $1.64 and then moving money to reserve so we can see that, I guess that movement of money. And also, is it possible with again, there was a show of hands, there was a vote at Leduc County or Leduc City for their option B, and is it possible that that would be reflected in the interim budget? Because I'd like to see a true interim number, which I believe will be below 175, incorporating the change to the transit system, as well as maybe adding some of the social network stuff.
Ms. Moscow?
So in terms of the changes for the water rates from the commission in our budget, so what we would do is just show an adjustment on our adjustment summary to show that we would have an additional contribution to reserves. So we can show that on the adjustment summary. We won't have time to be adjusting the budget documents to reflect the changes. However, we would make the change to the fees and charges bylaw, and we can show you that change in that document so that when we look to approve that fees and charges bylaw, that is clarified because we had specified what the commission charge was. So I think we have to make that clarification in the fees and charges bylaw. Now, on the information for City of Leduc and the transit discussion that they have, we have confirmation that that was a straw poll and not a formal approval of a budget. So I think we can have a conversation this afternoon on why we believe that perhaps the $296 is important to our business community or not, so we can have a discussion about what the benefits are with the alternative A versus alternative B, and then we can reflect whatever change. We have the adjustment summary, that's that live action kind of document with the changes that we do make. And then what I would suggest is if we do make changes to the adjustment summary this afternoon, because there's a few things on the table that we want to discuss, I would request a short recess after we make a decision on those changes. We confirm the total budget numbers, just because there are some things we don't like doing quick math on the fly when we're doing a motion approval of a $110 million budget.
Yes.
So we would take a brief recess. We would confirm, adjust those motions with the correct dollars values, and then we could come back from recess and have a budget approval.
Okay, and again, this is the interim budget, so it means that there could be changes between now and then, so we go with our very best. And when changes come up, like the assessment piece and the school requisition, all of that rolls in before we do the final budget in May. Said with not.
We actually did, or we do it more in April now, so.
Okay, so thank you. I'm going to recess until 1:30. Again, for all of you joining us, thank you very much. See you at 1:30, where we will take a look at our approval of our fees and bylaws, the changes made to the budget by council, and motions regarding our budget. Thank you.
I guess you can with just the first,
Started at 128, I guess. It's usually quite fast. People on YouTube today. Good afternoon. Going to call back from recess our 2024 budget deliberations meeting. We have a few items to finish up this afternoon. A general discussion. I think then we would go into looking at the adjustment on our budget, approval of our fees and bylaws, and then approval of the budget as well. Ms. Klamosko, did you receive any questions from council? That was your last question before lunch, related to any of the things we discussed?
no, there was no information requested, so there's no items that I have to review before we go to the adjustment summary.
Okay, so can we pull up the adjustment summary, please? Okay,
So what-
and who's going to talk us through it? Ms. Klamosko? Okay.
Yes, so we have made note of the various discussion items that we had this morning. So we can go through it line by line and
Yes,
have a
please.
discussion and see that, and then move towards making decisions on how we'd like to proceed. So within the grants and sponsor, or actually the first change I wanted to note was to the membership for the Association of Pigeon Lake Municipalities. There was a discussion that we are providing some in-kind services to the association so that there wouldn't be a need to be paying a membership fee. So we have moved that out. However, we're going to add it to the miscellaneous under membership, so it will have no impact to our tax dollar budget.
Okay.
The next section relates to the grants and sponsorships discussion that we had this morning. So there was some information presented by Councillor Smith to look for some increases in some of the areas. And also we had a discussion around potential increase of some budget dollars for the Canadian Energy Museum. So I'll start with the first line we have noted here is the Canadian Energy Museum. The organization had requested $25,000 from Leduc County. Administration had put forward no dollars in our proposed 2024 budget. However, there was the discussion around the $12,500 increase for 2024.
Okay.
Would you like me to go through everything and then
I think
we can? The next item was the $2,000 increase for the Family Violence Prevention Team. So that would be an increase to a total budget of $7,500 for 2024. It's an increase of $2,000 from what was proposed. Leduc Community Health Foundation proposed increase of $1,000, and that would increase the total grant to $2,750. Then we would have the Rise Up Society, which their proposed increase is $2,000. So that would increase to the overall for $10,000 for that organization. Society of St. Vincent de Paul Association, a proposed increase of $1,000, so that their total grant would be $3,000. STARS would be an increase of $7,000, so that would be our total amount would be $22,000. And the Hub Association, an increase of $2,500, which would increase their grant to $10,000. Now, the next change that we wanted to highlight was recognizing that the Water Commission had not gone forward with a rate increase that we had been informed about previous, and everybody's working through their budget. So different decisions were made. So the decision was to keep the rates the same and transfer the revenue into reserve. So that is acknowledging a $43,000 reserve contribution within the water budget. The next item for discussion, and we have not proposed a tax impact here, is that there was two options given for Leduc Transit service hours increase under the new initiatives. So option A is what administration is recommending, and that is an increase to service hours to cover weekday and weekend for on-demand transit. The second option B for that new initiative was to only offer increased service hours during weekday only. And if we implemented that change, it would be a savings to tax dollars of $86,000. However, we didn't put a dollar into this spreadsheet. So right now, with all of the proposed changes that have been discussed this morning, we would be looking without the transit, with no transit change, we would be looking at a 1.82% tax dollar budget increase versus the 1.76% proposed budget that was put forward to council yesterday for budget deliberation. So it is a slight increase, but well within our budget guidelines that council set last year or this year.
Is it possible just to put the number in on the Leduc Transit option B, the reduction of the 80-some thousand, to see where that would take that total tax impact?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And if I may, I know we can make changes as we go forward. I know, again, it was clarified that the city of Leduc just did kind of a straw poll saying that they would probably go with B. We could go with option B with the addition, if option A is something that they came out, and then add the 86,000 later. I like the 1.65 based on an option B, based on their tendency. And if the need to add later, that could be put into the budget and bring it up to the 1.2, but we could announce at 1.65% today if we were to accept option B.
Okay. Thank you. I'll actually speak against option B. Our administration, I believe, looked at option A for a reason. And we heard Mr. Mariglod talk about looking at who's riding the bus, where are they going, and obviously the need for weekend hours as well. I was thinking, you know, again, if we want to manage the increase a bit, knowing that there are changes going to come between now and final budget, that we could zero out the miscellaneous on the granting committee, knowing that we could put that in between now and final budget, because there will be either money coming from assessment increase and or if this Transit A or Transit B, if Transit B is the one that Leduc City supports, then it is the one we have to go with, which would provide some of that savings of money, but it also allows us to go forward closer to what administration had suggested we look at for a change while supporting, as you said really clearly, and I support Councillor Smith, all of the residents in Leduc County, not just those that are able to be active participants. So that's another option, but I wouldn't want to move us away from option A at this time, because I believe that was put in place because we need it to continue to drive economic development in that area. But we could remove the 15,000 of miscellaneous, would only leave us a $13,000 difference, which would be minimal in the final number, knowing we could add that back in between now and final budget. Thank you. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Can you clarify, if we choose option A and the city of Leduc chooses option B, which option actually will be chosen?
So within the new initiative document, they're right at the top of that project description. It specifies that if one of the municipalities chooses the lower option or the, you know, the option B, that we would deliver on whatever the lowest denominator was chosen by the various councils. So we would automatically implement the $210,000 option if City of Leduc chooses to only approve the $210,000 option.
Thank you for pulling that up. Counselor Smith?
Could we see the impact by deleting the miscellaneous then, please?
To clarify, would you like the savings for the transit removed as well?
No, we would keep the transit at option A, which is the $296,000. But we would be using the miscellaneous sort of to cover off the request from council, which should leave us with $13,000. So that puts us at 1.79%. Are we comfortable with that? Do we want to massage anything else? Floor is open. Counselor Smith?
I haven't said anything in a while. So, again, we had set our rate at 2% and we're below that. So, and again, in comparison to other municipalities, I think 1.79 is a palatable rate that will take us into the future year after year as well. So I can live with a 1.79 right now in an interim budget, knowing there will be some changes between now and April.
I too can live with it. I think it provides an overall budget that continues to move the county ahead, that recognizes our need to invest in infrastructure, which we are doing, invest in transit, which we are doing, and I believe it was, if this goes through the way we want it, $1.1 million, which helps to move forward that economic development, and more importantly, ensures that the most vulnerable in our communities are supported, if not through us partially, then through organizations that we can fund. Thank you. Other comments? Counselor Smith or Lewis, you guys are running together.
Thank you. I will speak against adding the Canadian Energy Museum 12,500. I looked over the financials again at lunch. And this is an organization, although they put great effort into trying to maintain and continue their operations, they seem to be failing year after year. And I cannot support continuing to put money into an operation that is not successful.
Okay, I have to fill in the spots here where nobody's talking, you know. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that comment. And then I have to sit back and say, and what would our residents say? Would our residents continue to invest or want us to invest their tax dollars into a venture that has not shown any, not come to fruition? There is no kind of coming out of the continual granting. And I'm thinking the answer to that would be no. I wonder though, as we move forward, should something change, I guess council, it's always at the ability of council to provide money to whatever organization we want. So should they come forward with a slam dunk plan in the middle of July, perhaps we could then take some money out of reserves and support them then. So anybody else have any wisdom? I am having a sober second thought. Thank you to Councillor Lewis. Go ahead.
I guess my thought on it, I would like to see us maybe keep that in there for now. Help them along one more year. They had some pretty good plans of raising some funds by getting rid of some assets that they don't require anymore. Perhaps as we see our oil and gas strengthening, there may be some money starting to come back to them from that. So I'm comfortable with the half of what they requested for one more year and then see where we're at.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Originally, I was okay with the zero. After talking to a few councillors about their ideas, listening to Ray, I think strongly worded, maybe letter that goes with the funding instead of just dropping them right off. That this would be the last year and we'd look for them to be viable on their own by next year with a strong notice. And then when we're back here a year from now, it's not a number that we want to see, or it's a request that we will actually take. And that could be communicated to them, a great presentation, great plan. Here's a last bit of money to finally see if this museum can keep going. Again, I've been putting money into this for 10 years and haven't seen anything. So again, to cut them off at zero and say good luck, I think maybe a transitional fund and a good luck letter for next year would be appropriate.
Thank you. Counselor Wanchuk, what are your thoughts on that? Great, that's okay.
I agree with Counselor Smith. That's a good way to put it. Tell them this, send them the letters. It's your last shot.
Yeah.
Get your best shot. And we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Blaser.
Yeah, I too, like Council Smith and Scobie have said, I've born and raised Leduc County. Oil industry has been kind of between that and farming the backbone. And I hope that now with the new folks they got running this, that they can get their heads above water. But I say we give them one more try. And if it doesn't work, well, then I guess, but send a letter.
Thank you. Okay, looks like most of council is majority of council is supporting the Canadian Energy Museum. We certainly want to be able to move forward with budget approval, and you're okay with that, Council? And Councillor Lewis has absolutely stated a great case. I think the notion of this is the last year, unless there are profits being shown, does two things. It gives the new CEO an opportunity to understand we're serious, pushes them hard, and allows us to provide them a transition time. Okay, great. Okay, back to the final number then. We are looking at 1.79%. Are we comfortable with that, Council? Councillor?
How do we cover that, the grants that would have come out of that? If we take that out, I'm sure there was a place that this was gonna go. Do we have a method of covering that afterwards when these requests come in?
Mr. Coleman?
Madam Chair, members of council, I mean, there is some dollars left there as the mayor has stated. So council can either live within those means based on the requests you get and prioritize, or council has the ability to have money out of reserves or other sources to, you know, if there's a good request come forward and council wants to fund it, we will find money.
Yeah. Thank you. Hey. So again, Councillor Smith, you're saying you're in support of 1.79%, under 2%, and moves us ahead. Councillor Blaser?
Yes.
Yes, myself? Yes, okay. So we're okay with that. Do we want to move to fees and charges now, or where do you want to go next, Ms. Klamosko?
Yes, I think we can go through the approval of the two fees and charges bylaws. And then, as I mentioned this morning, if we could just have a short recess to just confirm the total budget dollar numbers, then we can come back with the revised motion for council on the budget approval.
Okay. So this is a bylaw for fees and charges, is that correct? One for fees and charges and one's for utilities, correct?
That's correct.
That
Madam
is
Chair.
correct.
Look at me, 10 years, I finally got it right. So I'm looking for someone to move first reading on fees and charges for the 2024. Councillor Smith? Comments, questions, debate? All in favor? Just looking for second reading. Councillor Blaser? Comments, questions, debate? Seeing none, all in favor? Third reading on the same day? I will move that. All in favor? And third reading will be Councillor Wanchuk. Comments, questions, debate? All, oh, what have I done wrong? All in favor? Okay. Ms. Klamosko.
I jumped the gun there. My apologies. So I just wanted to, for the utilities fees and charges bylaw, we did make some amendments over the lunch hour, given the change to that water commission rate.
Right.
So I wanted to show you the changes that we've made to that bylaw in advance of moving forward.
1.64 per cubic meter, which was what was approved by the Water Commission, correct?
So previously in the previous version, it had 1.69. And so now we've moved the 5 cents out of the commission into Leduc County.
Thank you. Any questions on that process? I am seeing none. Looking for someone to move first reading on the utilities bylaw. Councillor Scobie, thank you. Comments, questions, or debate? All in favor? Unanimous. Second reading. Councillor Lewis, thank you. Comments, questions, debate? All in favor? Third reading on the same day. Councillor Balazer. Comments, questions, debate? Oh, we don't do it on that one. All in favor? And third reading. Councillor Smith, thank you very much. All in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, we'll take a short recess for our administration to prepare for final interim budget motions. Good afternoon. Call us back from our recess, and I'm going to turn the microphone and the floor over to Ms. Klamosko.
Thank you very much. So with the changes that we just discussed with the adjustment summary, if you go to tab 4 in your binder, you'll have the consolidated budget numbers that were presented as part of the budget package, and a few of those numbers have changed. So I'll just go through those with you.
Okay.
So given operating fund revenues are impacted because of the changes that we made that affect our tax dollars. So there's a change to that first line item. Then on the expenses side, we also had the changes in two different places. So because we had to remove some purchases from the Water Commission because of the rate change, so it actually affects a few more lines in the detailed budgets than one would think. So there's a few adjustments within the operating fund expenses within the water utility, and then within the sponsorship, the grants dollars. So a couple of changes were made there. And then the reserve that was created for the change with the Water Commission was contributed to a capital reserve, so that affects capital fund expenses. So those are the reasons why you have 3 lines within the consolidated budget that have changed. So that would change yesterday we had a budget of $110,897,509. Now that number would change to $110,910 and $910,509.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. And you're right, one change in one part of the budget is more complex than just one line. I'm going to put a motion on the floor that council approve the 2023 interim budget of $110,910,509, which includes an operating fund expenditure of $96,213,561 and capital fund expenditure of $14,696,948. Motion is on the floor. Comments, questions? I'm seeing none. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. We have a number of other motions, council, to approve the multi-year project. So I would be looking for someone to move the first one. Councillor Smith. If you could put your microphone on, please. Yep.
I'd move the first multi-year commitment for the Greater Nisku and Area Offsite Levy Bylaw. Total project, $135,000 spread over the 3 years.
Okay.
Or 2 years, sorry.
And it can you read it right in?
Sure. The council approved the multi-year commitment of $110,000 in 2024 and $25,000 in 2025 to complete the Greater Nisku and Area Offsite Levy Bylaw update. The total project cost is $135,000.
Thank you. We had an opportunity to discuss this earlier. Are there any other questions or debate on this multi-year project? I am seeing none. All in favor? It is unanimous. There is a second motion up there, multi-year project. Looking for someone to move. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. The recommendation is that council approve the multi-year commitment of 807,500 in 2024, 807,500 in 2025 for the procurement of equipment to transition the Fire Services Department to Alberta First Responders Radio Communication Systems, known as AFRACs. The total project cost will be $1,615,000.
All right. Again, we had an opportunity to see and the information about this and why it's important. Any other questions that have come up or debate on the motion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, the next one is related to the Westlands Area Structure Plan. Councillor Balazer.
Yes, I will move that council approves the multi-year commitment of $175,000 in 2024 and $90,000 in 2025 to complete the Westlands Area Structure Plan. Total project cost will be $265,000.
Thank you. Any questions or debate? Seeing no hands, all in favor? That's unanimous. Next motion, Councillor Scobie. Can you put your microphone on, please?
Yeah, I would move the recommendation that the council approves the multi-year commitment of 30,000 in 2024, 240,000 in 2025, and 100,000 in 2026 to complete the Leduc County growth strategy. The total project cost will be 370,000.
Okay, comments, questions, debate? Ooh, I almost got you on a question there, Mr. Councillor Wojcik. All in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, the next one is related to our transit buses. I will move that council approve the multi-year commitment of $175,000 in 2024 and $175,000 in 2025 for the refurbishment of Leduc transit buses. The total project cost will be $350,000. I'm seeing no hands for questions or debate. All in favor? Unanimous. And one left, Councillor Smith.
I would like to move the last one. After 10 years of work, the council approved the multi-year commitment of $100,000 in 2024 and $250,000 in 2025 for the development of a new Sarepta ball diamond. The total project cost will be $350,000.
I am seeing no hands for question or debate. All in favor? That is unanimous. Mr. Coleman, do you require any more motions?
The final motion required today, Madam Chair, is a motion to adjourn. Just before you do that, I'd like to thank council for your thoughtful deliberations. We, as always, as administration, strive to meet your needs, and through your diligence and hard work of going through the budget, you've met the needs of our citizens of this county, and I'm very proud to work for this council and this county.
And thank you very much. And once again, thank you to administration for listening to council and providing us a budget that was easy to support and hopefully will be palatable to our residents and businesses, because we are moving forward, but we're managing it in a way that's fiscally responsible. So thank you for that. And with that, I will adjourn at 2:12. Thank you very much.